A few weeks ago, we shared with you some fertilizer guidelines on fertilizing or using a starter solution for cool season crops. Well, today those same fertilizer applications will apply to warm season crops such as tomatoes, corn, watermelon, etc. And we want to kind of remind you about those and give you some specific guidelines. Now, we grow our tomatoes here on a black plastic mulch, and again that serves as purpose of weed control, but it also helps us warm the temperatures up a little bit earlier, and also it helps in keeping the moisture off, especially during all these heavy rains we've had recently, so we get good drainage and we're able to plant on time. Now what we do, we go in and we cut holes in the black plastic, insert our transplants, and at that time, and in addition to tomatoes, we grow a lot of things on the black plastic. So any transplant, at that time we use a starter solution. And remember, that's either a water-soluble fertilizer that you mix in with water, pour it on the plants, or it could be a commercial fertilizer that you just mix in a couple of tablespoons to a gallon of water, let it dissolve overnight, and then pour on about a cup to each plant. Now that mixture and that application is very important because it helps a transplant get started and the roots take off very easily. Now we have a drip irrigation line under the plastic to supply water during the growing season. So with the starter solution, we're just giving it an extra boost initially. And then we could, if we got fancy enough, even add fertilizer through the drip line later on. But what we chose to do, because our soil test, and remember a soil test is very important, we're adequate in phosphorus and potassium, so we only need to add nitrogen in our side dressing solution, and we'll do that a little bit later on. How we would do that, though, is very crucial. In a traditional garden with the row, you can go in and band it along the side of the plants several inches from the plant, or if you have just a few plants, you can do a ring around the plant, and that's what we'll actually do here. We'll take just a little bit of our fertilizer, and we'll have to be very careful that we don't get it right on the stems, and we'll just sprinkle a little bit around into that particular area for side dressing. Now we can use either a synthetic fertilizer like ammonium nitrate or urea, which is high in nitrogen, or you can use your organic type products such as blood meal, which can be anywhere from 12 to 15% nitrogen. But more importantly is the timing of these warm season crop applications. And let me share with you now some specifics on the particular warm season crops. First of all, if you're growing corn, you would want to side dress about 3 weeks after the corn germinates, or you see your seedlings germinate, and then again about 10 inches high. And if the plants still show some symptoms of needing nitrogen, you could apply another application when the tassels appear. With cucumbers, it's usually about the time the vines begin to run, and again that's a light nitrogen application. Eggplants would be about 3 weeks after you transplant. Melons would be when they first begin to run. Again, if they still show some symptoms of nitrogen deficiency, you could put on another application about blossom set. Peppers, it would be 3 weeks after transplanting or at the initial fruit set, whichever comes first. Pumpkins, when the plants start to run, again at bloom set. And then summer squash would be more about 6 inches in height, and then again at bloom set. And winter squash, a little bit different because it's more of a vining plant, would be when those vines first start to run, then again at blossom set. And tomatoes, about 2 to 3 weeks after you put the transplant in, or again at first fruit cluster, whenever or whichever one comes first. Now when we say when plants start to vine on vining crops, we mean that at a certain point the plants are still very vegetative, and then there's a point where the vines begin to run and grow across the ground, and that's what we're talking about. And with all of these warm season crops, don't be putting on fertilizer side dressing just for the heck of it. A lot of times people do it routinely and there's really not a need to do so. Watch the plant, especially like tomatoes, if there's a lot of high organic matter or the plants are very aggressively growing and you side dress more, you're going to actually cause problems instead of helping the plant out. And by that, what we mean is the plants will grow and grow and grow, put all of this foliage and viney growth on, and never really set fruit for you. And some people actually over-fertilize, and it's easy to do with side dressing. So what we're talking about is starting the plants initially with the starter solution, very important. The side dressing is really optional depending upon the plants and their characteristics and growth habit and their overall appearance. So it's time to get the warm season in, finish up planting those crops, be observant to their needs, and possibly put on a little bit of side dressing if they're needed.